And a very, very good evening to all, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Black and White United Show. I'm your host, Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this evening. In today's episode, we are going to quickly touch on some delisted free agents, who's available, and also what can we, if we could pick up anybody for that inside mid position to help out for the next couple of seasons to strengthen our team. We'll try and go through it. Roll the intro.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Okay, so this video sort of illustrates the lack of depth that's probably coming through the delisted free agency side of things. Obviously, we're after, which I've said in a number of videos now, Jacob Blight from Richmond, which we'll probably get and put him on as an SSP for to help out our defense, to help out the stocks there. There's probably 3 players in particular, maybe 4 that I could mention that are worth mentioning, but that's only because there's not really that core sort of talent that we probably require in our football team in the long term. Probably like a couple of band-aid fixes for the next 2 seasons, maybe, you'd think, but we'll go through them. The first one obviously is, and it's been well documented over the past 12 months, let alone the last few weeks, is obviously Ben Hobbs from Essendon. Now we're obviously after that inside mid sort of role. Can he fill that? I don't think it's entirely appropriate to say no, but at the same time, I just obviously I watch a lot of football, as does everybody else. I would liken him to someone like a Taylor Adams, and I would rate Taylor Adams way above a Ben Hobbs. That's just my personal opinion. To get someone like that for free, maybe, yeah. If it's not going to cost us anything, then yeah, okay. Then I can see sort of the logic behind it. I mean, he was drafted at pick number 13 in 2021, I think it was, and then I'm pretty sure it was 21, and then he played from 22 to 25, and he's played, I think it's like 65 games, something like that, off the top of my head. So it's not as if we're losing out if we were to turn around and sign someone like a Ben Hobbs for a 12-month contract. You sign him up for a year, see what he can do, knowing that he's probably going to play some football in the twos. But then this just screams out, we need to get the younger talent in our side to obviously fire up and to take some sort of role next to Nick in the midfield. And if there's anybody that I'm looking at to try and break into the side that hasn't played much or any senior footy, it's obviously going to be someone like a Harry Demeter. You want to see him in. The other one that you can talk about as well would be an Ed Allen. Now, a lot of people probably know this, and I've voiced my opinion. I don't rate Ed Allen as highly as other people think. I think his speed is fantastic. I think his body size is fantastic. His disposal and sometimes his judgment is a little bit, off. Maybe another preseason with the experience that he's had in the senior side over the past 2 seasons, in particular stringing a few games together this season, maybe that might help him. So I'm interested to see there. I haven't completely written it off in that sense there. But Harry Demeter is someone from the twos, which was coming home like a steam train in the twos with his form and stuff like that. Should be breaking into the side and should be knocking on the door for a round 1 appearance. Is Harry Perryman the next person that, take him out of the defense or whatever? Has he got an actual designated role in the side? Is he the next one to obviously come in and be that inside mid? Who knows? Do we throw, I know this is not sort of like an inside mid sort of conversation, but would you throw someone like a Dan Houston in the midfield? I prefer to put someone like a Dan Houston potentially on the wing or the half forward, put him in front of the footy. and then keep him on the opposite side to Josh Dacos. So you've got two sort of similar type of players in there. And that brings me to my next point with Josh. Do you put Josh in the midfield then and say, hey, listen, don't worry about playing on the halfback. Let Dan Houston play on the halfback. I know that contradicts everything I just said, but I'm thinking from the Collingwood coach's point of view. And you be that midfielder that we need. Run next to your brother. Do what you can do. Because I don't think for the majority of the season, someone like a Ned Long can carry that much load with the time frame that he's obviously been involved in the AFL system. And that's particularly being at Collingwood. So it's very interesting. But back to the Ben Hobbs side of things, is he someone, I think that if clubs below us and clubs dramatically below us are delisting players, then I think that speaks for itself. But the only reason why I'm obviously talking about it is because there's just not much available for the stuff that we're looking. We might have to bite the bullet for 12 months and try and grow these kids to play that inside midfield role, because we got rid of Tom Mitchell. Now, obviously with the whole Mason Cox, Tom Mitchell side of things, I was a big advocate for probably keeping both of them for another season. People were saying in other videos and comments on social media and stuff that you probably don't want to keep Mason Cox because it sort of hinders the development of like an Oscar Steen or an Ilya Smith. And I understand that part. I really do. But structurally, I just think Mason Cox is too important. So hopefully he does get another go on another side, although it will be sad to see him in a different jumper. I think Essendon is the perfect fit for him in that sense there. So now, Tom Mitchell side of things, maybe we could have kept him and tried to push him for another 12 months. I do think the game's gone past him in the speed-wise a little bit. But, getting the ball out of a contest and hand passing it out is really important. So we've got to try and find someone like that, maybe just a younger version of the Tom Mitchell to get in. Ben Hobbs is not that type of person. Ben Hobbs is a VFL footballer who can come into the side and help out when he needs. I pose the question then, is Lockie Sullivan that next type of person that you might just have to throw in there and say, hey, mate, you got to do it? And this is what I mean. You're clutching straws now, with all due respect to these players, because there's just not so much available from the delisted market now. So the other one that I wanted to talk about was obviously in defence with Schoenmaker from St Kilda. I actually wanted us to try and pick him up in the draft when he got drafted a couple of years ago. I thought he would have been awesome to try and get as a key defender. Didn't work out for him at St Kilda. His time at St Kilda was marred. Now, he played for the Tassie Devils in the Coates League and then came to the St Kilda Football Club and actually got suspended for 10 weeks. I don't know if people remember the story, because apparently he brought alcohol to some preseason camp or some crap like that. I don't know. So, obviously he broke into the side, played a little bit of footy, didn't work out for him, and he's been delisted. Now, he is the type of defender, though, on his day that actually I think would suit our system quite well. Is that worth picking up to try and see if it works? You pretty much got to flip a coin then between Blight and Schoenmaker, and I think the club is putting the eggs in the Blight basket at the moment. So that sort of leaves that one there. The other one that I wanted to touch on quickly is the Dogs have delisted Jason Johannisen. Now, I know people are going to roll their eyes when they hear that name. He's obviously a bit older. He's 31 or 32 years of age now. He might even be 33 by the time the season starts. He's been delisted. He's come out and said he thinks he can play another couple of seasons and see how he goes and he can contribute and stuff like that. If we want a quick Band-Aid fix, and believe me, nobody has to agree with me here. I know I'm going to get people in the comments that are going to disagree with me, and I'm going to understand their points of view as well, but particularly by his age. And they did also pick up another player, the Western Bulldogs, which is going to cover his position. If you can have a running halfback, he's a Norm Smith medalist. I personally don't believe he's had a really standout breakout season since 2016, since he won the Norm Smith medal, but he's just got that experience. I know we've got a team full of experienced players, as everyone's made it out to be quite known. And, I'm saying this even trying to convince myself sometimes a little bit, but I was thinking about it today, and I just think that he might actually be, for one season, just handy to have, especially if we can get someone like him for absolutely nothing, give him a different program. He'd feel like he's born again, feel like, you've just got that extra, step, because you're at a new club, you're trying to prove yourself, you're trying to break in, and he doesn't have to play every single game. He can be a player that can just come in, do what he needs to do. And then obviously if we've got a solid back on other people, he can just be that replacement, one man down, one man in sort of thing. I don't know. I just think if you're going to offer someone a 12-month contract, why not? Then the flip side is, well, if you're going to pick up someone like him at his age and he was a little bit out of form at the Dogs and out of favour, you could have probably have kept someone like an Oleg Markov for another year. So I understand that point of view. Both premiership players, I just think that, if he plays really well running off the halfback, he could even push him up to a wing to help out and stuff like that. I don't know. It's just the pool of the listed free agents this year is for what we're after is pretty low. So if we were to pick up anybody to fill up a quick spot, who knows? We might even take the picks into the mid-season draft and see if there's a gun in state league footy that we can pick up. The other one really is, and I'm worried to mention his name, but I've mentioned Hobbs, so I'll just say it anyway, is Jack Billings. I mean, Melbourne have let him go. I think he's 30 years of age as well. So obviously with the delisted side of things, you're going to get guys that are really young that couldn't get into the side, or you're going to get guys that are older, they're past their use-by date, and we've moved on. Tom Mitchell is the perfect example, and we've done that. Are we going to be looking for somebody who's going to be a like-for-like? Is that what we're after? Maybe someone a bit younger and a bit quicker to help out. Again, the Band-Aid fix. Can we just get someone for 12 months, maybe even 2-year contract, and they can contribute pretty solid? And then obviously this time next year, when the trade period's on or just finished, hopefully we've picked up a couple of superstars with the salary cap space and also with the access to the first round picks that we've got. That's all I've really got for tonight. I'm going to put it out there to everybody. What do you think? Is there anybody else out there that I haven't mentioned that is worth it? I'm just thinking about that inside mid role. I would personally prefer myself, I mean, I've obviously mentioned these names and stuff, is that I would personally prefer if we just persisted with what we had with the younger talent. And you've got to hope that players like the Jacob Bryans, the TJs, the Will Parkers, even though he's been a good contributor this 12 months, and then Harvey Harrison comes back in, Reef McGuinness comes back in. I mean, you think about it with the players that we've had out and the players to come in, there's so much there. There's so much there and there's so much to be excited about. It's just when they get their chance, they've got to take it. And the good part is if you were to get a player like Jason Johannisen in to play a halfback role or a wing role and just, tighten up the defense a little bit, it puts so much pressure back on the young kids and the guys that are already there. And I think that's really important. If you've got multiple players that can play the same position, knocking down the door, they might not be, superstar AFL players, but let's just say for the sake of the argument, Ben Hobbs came to Collingwood. He is going to be smashing down the door to try and get a gig in opening round or round one. He's going to be proving himself, and that just puts pressure back on the older boys. It puts pressure back on the guys that are in the midfield. It puts pressure back on everybody else to say, hey, there's 5 players on the bench now, and it's not a sub. So anybody can try and get that last spot to help out and to contribute. I don't think there's anyone else that I've missed or whatever, but please feel free, drop a comment below. Make sure you tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.